Hello, everybody. It's an absolute thrill to be here. First of all, who's ever been to Boston? This is what a Bostonian Irishman sounds like. So you're hearing the real deal Boston accent here. I'd like to start off by saying the inspiration for what I do now, or part of the inspiration for what I do now, came from Rosalind's book. If you haven't read this book, I strongly encourage you to do so. Fantastic. It really helped change my life and change the way I framed having this disease. To quote from the book, find the page. On page 19, it talks about the diaspora, or the spreading of T80 throughout Ireland and over to the United States. So there's a quote here from the Beautiful Game. It says, "So farewell to God's own country. We are Irish, and we will sail up the tide. Gone to seek a better place. It is the story of our race." So as we probably all well know, the Irish migrated to the United States from late 1700s up certainly through the mid 1800s, and my ancestors were part of that process. The first being a Mr. James Riley, who was originally from Cavan, Ireland, and migrated to the Appalachia area of the United States, which is talked about in this book. The other half of my family are the Caulfields, who migrated to the United States a bit later in the late 1800s, and they were from Knock down in County Mayo. They both migrated to the United States, both families, separate times, separate places, and did what Irish people do best: worked hard, in Appalachia, farmed, worked the land. The Caulfields moved to the greater Boston area, Salem, Massachusetts, and were industrious people. And the other thing that they were good at, as all Irish people, was the art of reproducing. So along with their baggage to the United States and through the process of reproducing, this T80 variant made its way down to me. So reproduction took place, and eventually came Dorothy Caulfield and David William Riley. David Riley was in the U.S. military, and he met Dorothy while he was stationed up in Massachusetts. Those are my parents. Fast forward to May 9th, 1963, I appear on the planet, armed with three things. Unfortunately, armed with the T80 mutation, but also armed with Irish toughness and bullheadedness, I call it, and also, which I believe is very important, a sense of humor, and it served me well. Now we fast forward 1963 through the 70s and 80s, and I grew up as a typical punk Irish kid in Boston. Has anyone seen the movie Good Will Hunting? Yeah. Okay, Matt Damon and the Affleck brothers, their characters. That's what it was like being Irish in Boston. So when I grew up in Boston, you were either Irish or Italian. So I grew up in Boston, and one of the popular things to do in Boston is to play ice hockey. So I became an ice hockey player, played ice hockey, screwed off in school, got my way through school kind of the hard way. So played ice hockey. I was very athletic, grew up athletic, became an adult, got into weightlifting and whatnot. So I was a very athletic, kind of rugged person, if you will. Move into, let's see, the year 1985, a little anecdote. My first time to Ireland, I spent 4 days in Dublin. Those were my college years, so most of the time was spent inside O'Donoghue's pub. So I didn't get out to see the rest of the country much. So I graduated from college 1987 with an engineering degree. I went to Maine Maritime Academy. I was offered a job. I never knew that I'd enter this industry, but I was offered a job to be a nuclear reactor operator. I didn't know anything about it, but they told me what the pay was, so I'm like, sign me up. So that started my 30-year career, 30-plus years career as a nuclear reactor operator, and then later I taught and trained reactor operators. So in those 30 years, I worked hard, got married, and in that process also practiced the skill of reproducing. So I've got a son, Sean, who's 34, and a daughter, Carolyn, who's 30. Magnificent people. Sean actually works as a project manager for a bio cell signaling company. So he's involved in healthcare, so that's pretty cool. He has the T80 variant. He's aware of it. He's in contact with the same practice that takes care of me, and they're monitoring him. I've got a daughter, Carolyn, who's 30 years old, and she is a practicing and actually makes some money at it stand-up comedian. So I'm proud of her as well. So the years go by. Now fast forward to it would be 2012. Life's going on fine. My career's rolling. I'm in, doing my thing. And then I noticed over time, both of my hands start feeling a little bit numb. So I had bilateral carpal tunnel surgery. Didn't think much of it. It's a pretty common thing. Also, at the same time, I ended up, over about a year's period, I guess, having surgery on 3 fingers for trigger finger. Again, I didn't think much of it. Obviously, little did I know at the time that's one of the initial symptoms of amyloidosis. Fast forward about another year, I was at home. I started feeling an uneasiness in my chest, felt like I was going to faint. Was brought to the hospital. They did all the workups you would do for someone that may be having a cardiac event. They didn't see anything, sent me on my way. A year later, I started having gastrointestinal issues, having trouble eating, nausea, rotating bouts of constipation and diarrhea, started losing weight. I actually, over about a 3-year period, lost 70 pounds, not 7.0, 70 pounds. So things weren't right. I could tell things weren't right. Athletic person, suddenly my body's starting to break down. I'm in my early 50s. I can't, I'm feeling like I'm 70. I had a second event, same thing. This time I was at work, started feeling an uneasiness in my chest, felt like I was going to faint. Brought to the same hospital. This was all up in New Hampshire, which is north of Boston. They did the same thing, did all blood work and whatnot, and no heart attack. This time the cardiologist said, well, we're going to do an angiogram on you. We want to look at your heart. They got the results back, sat me down, and said, Sean, we're looking at your heart, and there's no problem here. In fact, your heart is really robust, like an athlete's heart. So I recommend that you go home and train for the Boston Marathon. Fortunately for me, I'm also kind of lazy. So I didn't heed his advice, and I'm glad I didn't, because what he was seeing was an enlargement of my left ventricle. It was a cardiologist, but they weren't trained in amyloidosis. So that all came to a head, and there's kind of a low point here. We get to the year 2018. And all this was mounting on me, and things were going wrong with my body. I was losing weight. They actually, did scans on me, checked to see if I had some type of malignancy or whatnot. They couldn't see anything, and it got to the point actually where, and I'm not the only patient that's gone through this. I hear it from other amyloidosis patients and other patients in the rare disease community. That was suggested that it was all in my head. My primary care physician suggested that. People around me, lay people, suggested that, and I actually ended up in counseling for it. But I knew something was wrong. Fast forward again, 2018, I get an early retirement package from the company that I was working for 30 years. At the same time, a headhunter, a talent scout, finds out about me, offers me a job over in Abu Dhabi in the Mideast. So I took it. I'd like to say that I took it to travel the world or for my own professional curiosity, but once again, it was the money. So I went over there, and that decision saved my life. Is anyone aware of the Cleveland Clinic, the hospital in the United States? They actually have a center over in Abu Dhabi. It's huge. So I get over to Abu Dhabi. It's in the middle of the summer in the Mideast. I have that dizziness again. This time I hit the deck. I faint. They bring me I was living in a local village. They bring me to the medical facility in this village. They say, well, you moved over from the United States to the Middle East. You probably dehydrated, pumped me with saline and sent me on my way. A week later, the exact same thing happens. This time, the doctor at the local hospital says, there might be something going on here, cardiac-wise, so we're going to send you to the Cleveland Clinic. This is where things get better, because it's a Dr. Salma Alaham is his name at the Cleveland Clinic. This gentleman helped save my life. He didn't know what was going on. They took an echo of my heart, saw that it was enlarged, knew that I was hypotensive, saw that I was having peripheral neuropathic symptoms, and so he assembled a team, neurology, oncology, endocrinology, and they all did tests, and they still couldn't figure out, they're like, something's going on to cause this. Finally, he called back to the United States to one of his colleagues at the Cleveland Clinic, and the guy said, perhaps it might be this rare disease, amyloidosis. So they did a scan of my heart over there with technetium, which, being a nuclear engineer, I know has a half-life of about 6 to 9 hours. Anyways, it came back positive, showed uptake. So they explained to me that we know it's some form of amyloidosis. We don't have the skills here or the resources to treat you. They knew I was from Boston, and they said, you need to go home and see a Dr. Rodney Falk at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. So I did that, and I will tell you right now, I could not have fallen into better hands. I see some of the doctors shaking their heads there. Dr. Falk, great guy, one of my friends now. So I get back, Dr. Falk repeats the heart test, comes back positive, blood work, rules out light chain. Does a DNA sample, they send it to the Mayo Clinic, lo and behold, it comes back T80 positive, the Irish special. So I've got it. So this happened right shortly after patisiran came out of trial. In fact, I was the first patient at that hospital to go on patisiran. Dr. Falk described to me the gravity of the situation. And even though, and he told me that patisiran was available, I asked him about it, he said it had just come out of trial. I was a little bit hesitant. It's a new drug, what are the side effects? So I said, what is the course of action if we don't use this patisiran? And he said, well, you probably will be fatal in 2 to 3 years. So that made the decision very easy for me. Sign me up, let's get going on this. And also, ironically, even though it was devastating news, it was great because now I knew something. Now we knew what was going on, right? So it was actually a great sense of relief. So we started in on patisiran. I started feeling a little better, and I made the decision, and I want to quote Homer Simpson from The Simpsons. Trying is the first step towards failure. So I attempted to go back to work in the greater Boston area, went back to work, and in a very short time, my health started degrading again. I was losing weight. It was the fatigue. It was wearing me down. So I had to make the difficult decision that I was no longer be able to work in my profession, which was my identity. And I will tell you, this was the low point in my life. I went through counseling. I was in pretty deep depression. Things weren't good. But I finally reached the point where I convinced myself, with the support of others, that I can either, look at this, be a victim, or make the best out of the situation. So I chose to do that, and I identified 3 opportunities. The first opportunity was really a blessing. Had I not gone overseas and had to come back for treatment, I never would have met who was then my girlfriend and now my wife, Robin. Robin is, and we've talked about caregiving, she always says the same thing. I don't really feel like a caregiver. Well, she's an emotional caregiver. She's my rock, she's my foundation. I also have it, I love the redheads, so I went for her. So Robin came into my life. So out of an absolutely horrible, health situation, what could be better than that, right? The second opportunity, I realized I had to reinvent myself. I could no longer work. I could no longer do the physical activities that I did. So I had to find other avenues, things to keep me busy. One day I was sitting at Robin's at a desk at her apartment, and I started doodling. And I realized, hey, wait a minute, I can draw. I was so busy going through my career and whatnot, I never realized that I had a talent for art. And it makes sense because one of my father's brothers was a sketch artist for Walt Disney. So evidently that's genetic as well. So I took up art, and I would call myself a accomplished amateur artist, if you will. And I will tell you that the tattoo on my left arm, I didn't carve the tattoo into my arm, but that's my design, and it's a abstract art that represents my journey with amyloidosis. So if anyone cares to look at it afterwards, I can show it to you and explain it to you. So I went down to different avenues. I took up art, I took up cooking, I took up gardening. I never thought I would have been a gardener, but now we've got, we call it Riley Acres, and I love growing vegetables and whatnot. And we travel. So it's things that, when I was stuck in my career, I wouldn't have done. So I identified this disease has given me an opportunity to kind of spread my wings a little bit, if you will, and discover other things. The third opportunity, being someone with a science background and engineering background, and Dr. Falk talked to me about this because he encouraged me to maybe be an advocate. I guess I kind of understand the science of the disease better than a lot of lay people, patients might. That combined with my ability to get up and public speak, I identified, that, hey, I'd like to do something. So Dr. Falk put me in contact with a few people, and I ended up getting in contact with a woman in the United States named Deb Bodeker, who runs the Amyloidosis Speakers Bureau. And that's what I do now, and I speak probably once a month. We travel around the whole country in the United States. I've been out to Los Angeles, Chicago, St. Louis, and we go and we speak to second-year med students, which is it's right before they spread out into their disciplines. So we get to catch them all. And I tell my story. I try to make an impact on them, get them crying, get them laughing, and hopefully they'll walk away and remember this disease, amyloidosis. I do that. I also work, I'm on the patient committee for the Heart Failure Society of America. I do that, and then I also am on the patient advisory committee for the pharmaceutical company that supplies the medicine that I'm on. So my message to you, and I know there's a lot of patients here that have had the disease for a while. There's people here that maybe have recently found out and are struggling with this. First of all, this is a great time to get diagnosed because all these medicines are available. What used to be a death sentence is now a treatable condition. So please remember that. You're going to get through this. Okay, be a warrior. My new friend Peter over there told me he's up on Irish history. He said the Rileys, he goes, that clan, they were warriors. So that's the warrior in me, the Riley side of the family, I guess. But be a warrior. You have every reason in the world to feel positive. You've got a future. This thing's treatable. Find new things to do, discover new things, and you can lead such an enriching life. That's all I have to say, and I thank you for your time.